Everybody to our Mesa Union board meeting this evening. We're happy that you're all here, and we're going to begin with our roll call. And let's see, 6:01 here. And as I call your name, if you please acknowledge that you're here. Myself, I'm present. Julie Hupp, she's supposed to be here, but she's not presently here. She's running late, that we know of. Ms. Romero is also supposed to be here, but we don't see her yet. Dr. Canby, present. And Ms. Dryden.
Present.
Dr. Ramirez.
Present.
And Ms. Peterson. Oh, it's good to see you. And Ms. Torres. Okay. With that done, let's go ahead to the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
I move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries 3-0-2 in favor. Let's have the official opening. If the audience please stand, face the flag, and please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we move on, we changed the agenda just a little bit so that we have lots of guests here so we can acknowledge them. Normally at this point in time, we'll go into a closed session and then come back in a half hour, 45 minutes. And rather than make you all sit there and wait for us, we're going to take care of that business first. And so we've moved you to the top of the agenda so you can be addressed. With that, we're going to move on, though. We need to adopt the minutes from the previous meeting. Can I get a motion?
I so move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion about the minutes? Okay. All those in favor of adopting the minutes from our last meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 3-0-2 in favor. Audience to address the board. Did anybody fill out any speaker cards? Okay. Then we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Ramirez.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Sullivan. My board report actually consists of just celebrations for this evening. So I really want to highlight some very important anniversaries. And before that, really celebrate a handful of people here who have contributed, not just this year, but over the course of time with their efforts as both parents and incredible volunteers. So I'll let Ms. Romero settle. So I want to start with our Mesa Moments celebration here. There are 4 individuals, and I know that there are a couple of people with us remotely, so I'll just speak here, and then I'll invite you all to come forward. But we have our PFO executive committee, our president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. And I just want to talk about them collectively because of the kind of work that they've done over the course of, as I mentioned, this year, but really multiple years now. As the board is well aware, PFO is really a phenomenal organization, longstanding, that helps us as a school district augment our program, benefit our program, increase both services, events, and brings the community together in many, many ways. That requires a lot of coordination, a lot of hard work and effort. And it's not always seen, although in this case, these 4 folks are very, very visible at any of our events, whether they be awards assemblies, at Carnival, you name it, they're here. And I also want to acknowledge all the hard work that they and others, their spouses and their families and so on, have done to support them. But I just wanted to recognize them. We enjoy a very vibrant PFO, but I'd like to call them up to receive a small acknowledgement and token of appreciation from us as a school district for their hard work and dedication. So if Cynthia Gonzalez, Carlos Gonzalez, Melinda Samaniego, and Steve Lee can come forward, please, and to be recognized. Come forward. And just to conclude the thought on our PFO, and obviously our PFO is a number of parents and family members and community members to our Mesa community. But I just wanted to finish off by saying, you know, these are all hardworking individuals, parents, working parents, and that are very giving of their time. And just you're very much appreciated by us. We are very grateful to your efforts, and we hope to continue to partner with you into the future and in helping our kids accomplish their goals and who they will become. So thank you again for everything. We are going to also tonight celebrate some anniversaries, and we've got them in increments of 5 mostly. But I do want to acknowledge some of our teachers and staff that are in the audience. So on your screen, you have the Mesa anniversaries all celebrating 5 years. We have, and I'm just going to speak to a couple of them who are here. But we have Miss Chloe Fong, Miss Paige Caluza, Miss Rocio Laurel, and Mrs. Jessica Ballesteros, who are all being celebrated for their contributions over the last 5 years. To the 2 who are here celebrating 5, Miss Fong and Miss Caluza, just fantastic teachers, incredible inviting environments that they provide. Miss Caluza in kindergarten, Miss Fong in 3rd grade, just incredible energy, incredible dedication, incredible growth. The benefit that your kids have each and every year over the course of the year in terms of their growth and their development and their support is really amazing. And we thank you for being here. We thank you for continuing to be members of our staff. And, you know, we celebrate you as you reach this important milestone. So if you could please come forward to be celebrated. Okay. Come on over. Okay, our next group of honorees celebrating 10 years. Mrs. Adele or Addie Oliveras celebrating 10 years. Mrs. Daniela Torres also celebrating 10, and Mrs. Sarah Hokamp celebrating 10. And since Mrs. Hokamp is here with us, I can't say enough about her as well. Has worn many, many hats and occupied many, many roles. But the last few years has been our after-school support specialist. And our after-school program is very important to us, as we all know. It extends learning. It really enriches the lives of kids, keeps them in with us for throughout the afternoon before they can go off home. And it's been amazing to see her really lean into making that program just better and better, more fully aligned, not just to the school day, but increasingly to some of the things that kids are seeing even outside of school. So Ms. Ocamp, I think, has found her place in at Mesa, and she's occupying it and filling it extremely well. So I just can only say complimentary things for her effort and her dedication over many, many years. So Ms. Ocamp, if you'd like to come forward and be recognized. All right, and we've got two more individuals to honor. Next is celebrating 20 years. It says Ms. Jolanda Ramirez. She's our school office assistant. She couldn't be here today to be honored in person, but I know she's been here recently, being celebrated for her accomplishments just recently. I'd just like to extend my gratitude, for her contributions. As is the story with so many of our staff, her own children who are now grown came to Mesa, and so her story here is one that is typical and yet very special for being typical, and yet continues to support us each and every day, working with us and being extremely flexible with all of the push and pull that happens. But very, very thankful to have her celebrating 20 years as part of our staff. So we can just give her also a big round of applause. And as a culminating honoree today, this evening, I'd like to honor, and if I could just say a few words about Mrs. Bautista, who is celebrating 35 years of service to Mesa United. So before she comes up here, I just wanted to say Mrs. Bautista has been amazing for us. 35 years. 35 years. Is our longest tenured employee at Mesa. And I think she just she has a fondness for other people. She does her work with joy. She does it well. She works with everybody, flexible, genuinely cares. Her story again is typically unique. Came to school here, has spent a lifetime here, contributing, being a part of this community. I couldn't be more proud of her and of us having her with us throughout these many years. We hope those continue well into the future. But I just, tremendous gratitude. Muchas gracias por todo su servicio, sus más de 3 décadas, y ojalá y celebremos muchos años más. So I'd like to have Mrs. Bautista come forward to give us honor. And just to close, I mean, just amazing contributions. Each one of these individuals being honored tonight has so many wonderful stories to share, to tell. And just want to thank all of you for being here, the families and friends and fellow coworkers. Thank you all for being here. Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros esta noche, celebrándolos. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. And we wanted to close out just with a small token of recognition for your contributions and your hard work to making Mesa better, growing all in the right ways and helping kids fulfill their promise. So thank you all for everything, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
This is also the point where we say, you're more than welcome to stay. But if you'd like to retire, that's perfectly fine. Thank you for being here.
Oh, man. Oh, thank you.
You'd like to do Martin for the box? How do I shoot it? Yeah.
First grade. I hear you.
Are you gonna quit? Yes.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, your name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, nice to meet you.
Cynthia.
Cynthia. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Wow. Thank you.
And, I'm really glad the board got to see these little interactions, these little moments. These are many of our staff members and parents. And this is generally how the atmosphere is around here, just very supportive. And, I think you all know that, but it's a good reminder that this is what we want to engender and what we want to create for people who work here, for all of us who work here, but also so that we can bring our kids forward. So anyway, thank you for making the time and for allowing me the time to just say a few words about these important people. Kept my superintendent's report purposely brief, but just wanted to highlight attendance. The last couple of months, April and May, have been very positive. I want to continue to help to really call out the work of Ms. Kuklinski and our counselor, Ms. Inda, the front office, Jolana, Lupe, Patty, who have been at the forefront of communicating with parents, setting up meetings, informing, sending notifications, just being really dogged about our commitment to ensuring that kids are here every day so that they maximize their learning. So we've seen some very positive yields just through that diligence. I wish there was something more to it. Obviously, we put a lot of hard work. We try to be strategic. We try to partner. But I think I'm very heartened to see us closing in good form, just developing good habits for the coming year. With that said, I wanted to end my superintendent's report with a rundown of some events, including some summer events. You'll see on there our promotion is going to be on Friday. I think several of you will be in attendance. It'll be nice to see you and nice to be together again. Celebrating, yet another eighth grade class and sending them off into their high school careers. It's always a great opportunity to come together. Our setup is happening now. Practice is ongoing, and we'll have all of our stage and presentation. All of our arrangements starting tomorrow afternoon. I just gave a rundown of some of our renovation projects. We will be busy this entire summer. You'll see some of these items appear on the rest of the agenda. And then summer learning, we will have our summer learning from June 30th officially out through July 25th. The bulk of students will be here from the 7th through the 25th. And then fast forwarding to August 12th and 13th, we'll have professional learning and collaboration for certificated staff. And August 19th is our first day of school. So we'll be back before anybody knows it. So with that, I'll conclude my superintendent's report and answer any questions you may have.
I like the tardy text messages that parents get for having their children arrive late to zero period. I think that's a great text message. It's almost like, you better not do that again. And it's a good reminder and to tell your children too, this is what happened. So I think that's a great text message.
Yeah, just on that note, we've been doing everything we can. We don't have a lot of staff and very few, actually, we don't have any dedicated staff to just one function. So the reason I bring that up is because we've been using systems to be able to convey things that are just notices. That also allows us then to have different conversations with family along the way, right? And those notifications are intended to inform parents, but also, to ensure safety, because we want to know that if parents drop off, that their kids are where they need to be, and that they're not, it becomes part of just a cycle. So we've integrated that late, and we're trying to find the right balance of technology doing its work, but us also communicating with families and parents and with kids, especially by the time they get to be in middle school. The conversation involves them as well, because they will go on to high school and we want to set them up for better habits. So I appreciate you noticing that. And it's, again, credit goes to our office and our principal, Ms. Kunsky, who put all these things together, leveraging the technology that we have available.
I guess in addition to, just giving recognition to all the staff members, I think the PFO, did an amazing job. And I think another thing that's highlighted from that is getting the community involved in that volunteering effort. And I know when I read last week's Mesa Matters, there was a long list of all of the people that are supporting this community and volunteering their time and effort, whether it's in the classroom and doing that support, things that the teachers need outside of the classroom, going to field trips, all of these other things that happen here. And I just thought it was an amazing thing. And I don't remember if it's always in Mesa Matters, but I saw it and really appreciated it. And I thought it was a great add to that distribution.
Thank you. And I'll make sure I know at least one of you got a little volunteer goodie bag, but you're all super volunteers. I think I said that to you. I'll make sure that you all have something, because I thought we changed it a little bit this year. Ordinarily, we have our volunteer dinner, but that was becoming a little more challenging to get everybody back and together. And we wanted something that was tasteful and acknowledged everybody's support and their ongoing support. So I'll make sure that everybody gets that everybody, all of you as trustees, get that as well, because it doesn't get more volunteer than the Board of Education. So with that said, yes, thank you for acknowledging that. We are trying to, hold up people's contributions wherever we can.
I appreciate that. I'm sorry, Dr. Camby, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. I am always sitting here in awe. This campus would not function without a lot of people being involved. The administration, our teachers, our staff, the board, but our parents and students. They provide such tremendous support and make it so possible. And I was marveling to myself how important it is that so many big things happen here because parents of students take initiative to participate and make sure that things are that take place. And it seems to me that there's one or two every cycle, and I say a cycle, it could be like a generation, that shepherd big projects through for a long time. Our most current one is the reading and the book club, along with mock trial. Your predecessors, they shepherd through the robotics program, which was tremendous. We had others that really shepherded the science fair, and our science fair is doing really well. And so it's very appreciative. I'm very appreciative of everything that our community does, that they are involved, and trying to keep them involved is very, very important. And so I appreciate your acknowledging them. I appreciate them being acknowledged in the Mesa Matters. I'm glad that they were able to come. I'm glad that they had supporters come as well. That, it wasn't just the people that were getting a recognition, but their friends and family and colleagues came in support. And that's what you were trying to highlight as well, is that they have that additional support, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm always happy that the board gets to give recognition in that regard. Okay. Does that conclude your superintendent's report? Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Sorry.
No. We acknowledge the fact that you were coming.
Okay. I text.
Yes, we knew that. And so we're glad that everybody's here. So let's move forward with on the agenda, board members, reports and communications. Do we have anything let's go down the line. Let's start with Dr. Canby. Do you have anything that you would like you're concerned about?
No, just echo your sentiments about the volunteers and how important they are to the school and the community, but no, nothing else to add.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Dryden?
Just something of interest. Future meetings would be to talk about the dashboard for homework future.
Okay. Anything else?
I would make this very short. Just a couple of weeks ago, we also got first place in Batalla de los Libros en Español. There were 13 teams in the county that participated throughout the county, most of them from Oxnard. We were the only non-dual immersion school that participated, and we got first place. So I am very, very proud of that. Our strategy, our tactics are working, and we're going to continue to do what we're doing. The structure was the same. The only difference was that it was in Spanish and a different set of books in Spanish. There were about 40 questions. We only got one wrong. And I think the difference between our score and the second highest scoring team was probably pretty significant, which I am, very proud of the kids because it was challenging. We didn't have a lot to pick from, and but we worked hard, and I was very proud of the kids. And it covered grades 4 through 6, and we did get a plaque. And like the other ones, I'm not quite ready to give it to the school. I want to hang it on my wall for a little bit longer, but I am going to show it to everybody. It's primer lugar, Batalla de los Libros 2025. But we do get a poster, and it's a very one-of-a-kind poster, and it gives you the bragging rights So I will give this to you. It's in Spanish. It's just like the plaque, but a little bit larger. I'll give this to you.
Thank you.
Along with the tote bag. It's actually, so I can go ahead and distribute it. One for each family. There you go, in Spanish. There you go, Madame. Did I give you one already, Dr. Amigo?
Thank you.
No. You just-
I'm gonna have like, I'm gonna be wearing like 4 at promotion.
So, I went down on the floor for several, just to watch what was happening. And there were several schools that are under the impression that Mesa is a private school because of how well they perform.
Well, let me add to that. We are the best public-private school there is, and I've received those comments from many. And I think a lot of it comes because of how they're dressed. You know, they are dressed with the white blouse and dark, very professional. And I think that adds to their ability to perform better. And just like a side note is, you know, we arrived to VCOE at about 9:30, 9:45 in the morning, but even started at 10 a.m. We all start walking towards the front doors. There's already teams there waiting for the doors to open. And I hear students say, "That's Lisa, that's Lisa." And then I hear other students say, so, and I hear from other parents that other schools are intimidated by NISA. So, which is, you know, it's just what is happening. Is it a good or a bad thing? I think for the most part, it's probably a compliment.
I think it's a compliment. Yeah, I think I've shared this in the past. I don't know if you've been here when I've shared this, but I've looked at board meeting minutes of other schools. I'll just leave it at that. Other schools. And when you read their opening and their recognitions of who's there, and the board will talk about the events that they've gone and visited, 100% of them have all been athletic and 0 academic. And that just to me points out to where what's most important to the board is only the athletics. And I like the fact that we acknowledge both the athletics of the school plus the academics. And this is classic about, you know, what it is, because it's just as important to acknowledge the academics, because not every person is going to be a superstar that's going to go on to be a star in high school and then make it on and get a college scholarship. That percentage is very, very small. But on the academic side, it's much larger. And even if they don't get a scholarship to college or whatever, they'll have skills that they can take with them into life that are very, very meaningful. And so I enjoy this so much. I really do. Thank you for all your effort and your husband's effort.
It's my pleasure. It is my pleasure. I really, there's so much personal gratification that comes with it that I wouldn't, I have absolutely no regrets for every minute that I have spent on it. So of course, you're welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to get to wear so many pins on Friday.
Maybe another little side note that I have here too is, you know, the middle school mock trial competition, there's a lot of support and movement to have it be a state competition. And that looks very promising, hopefully as soon as next school year, for it to take place in San Luis Obispo. So if it does, I think that's going to be fantastic. Yeah.
Okay. As far as Battle of the Books, you're getting the support, are the students getting the support that they need as having books to read and such? Are we providing those?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Dr. Ramirez orders the set of books and he does it very quickly. We would like a liaison, a teacher liaison to, we've already talked about it, to do what I think should be done to make it better. But absolutely, we have the support, we have what we need.
Great. Okay, Ms. Coffey.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Did you have anything that comments, questions?
No, just.
Concerns?
You can hear me because I can't log on. Just that congratulations, and that's awesome. It's the first one in Spanish.
Yeah.
So that's for being the first one, so you guys will go down in history. And thank you guys for everything you guys have done, and congratulations to all the students, and congratulations to all the graduates that are coming up too. That was a great job, and it's good to hear that this is still the best little known secret of being a private public school, because that's how it was back in the day when I used to go
Yeah.
there. So,
And that- It's been that way for years. Best kept secret in the county.
yeah.
Okay, I don't think I have anything further. I've opened my mouth enough on this as people have spoken. And so with that, we'll finish up with the comments and concerns. I don't know if Tammy got promoted. You need to be promoted to a panelist. Because I know that there's a part coming up where you're going to get to visit with us here very shortly. Item next is the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Is there any questions or comments or discussion about the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those that would like to adopt the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. There. And now that brings us down to item 9, information discussion items. We're going to be opening up a public hearing regarding the LCAP. Let's see, I need to formally open this public hearing, correct? So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:38. Anybody have comment on the public hearing? This is regarding the Mesa Union School District LCAP, the plans. Are you going to do the presentation now? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Wanted to just, thank the board for being patient with me. This is going to be kind of in multiple phases. The structure of the plan is largely going to remain intact from what it had been before. We're going to make some adjustments. And one thing, and just in my conversations with board members in the lead up to tonight, wherever you see an action, the action may be the same, but I can guarantee you that the work that happens day to day, month to month, and over the course of the year does change year over year, without a doubt. And I'll take an opportunity to highlight that wherever possible. And just timing wise, today there's going to be a public hearing. We'll continue to revise through Thursday. Thursday I'll ask the board to adopt. That will continue to be revised, some technical pieces. By June 30th, I will submit our plan to the county. They will undertake their revision. They will continue to work with me on any technical pieces that need to be identified, either on the budget side with Ms. Peterson or on the programming side with me. And then the idea would be to have it submitted prior to, is it August or September? I believe it's August.
It's August.
So just know that what happens from now until then are just minor revisions, making sure that everything is compliant. But with that said, I did want to provide the board this evening with just an overview of where we are in terms of our goals, our process. You'll see here a process is being delineated. We have goals, actions, and metrics. The metrics, some of them are already here, many of them are not. We just concluded CAS testing, which is our statewide testing. We are already seeing some results come in, but that becomes also another big focal point. Moving forward, this is just a reminder that all of these actions are in different stages of implementation. You know, hiring somebody is one thing, having them actually develop programs with other staff members in service of students and families, that's quite the other. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you're hearing some of my retelling of where we are for the year. We are in the first year of a 3-year LCAP cycle. And what we've been really focusing on is coherence and organization, really taking a look at the vision set out by the board, and with my input and support, and seeing it through different parts of our staff and parts of our community. We want the things that the board envisions to make their way to the students' classrooms and learning spaces, and for it to find its way back to you so that you have confidence that the two are in alignment.
The bird is right here.
It's inside,
In the vestibule.
And they're gonna sing to us.
All right, continue on this one. All right, so in terms of the goals, these have been reviewed in the past. Those are the 4 goals. I'm going to go ahead and go into just an overview of each one of them, and what's going to be on the horizon. Goal 1, we have started this practice of documenting what learning needs to happen at what stage in the year. We call those the learning progressions. What we want to do is complement learning wherever possible across content areas. And so that there's clarity, especially as sometimes teachers do change grade levels. We'll have that this year, for example, so that there's continuity year to year and that the learning just continues to unfold in a good fashion. So that is something that may not be visible to the outside, but it's very important to our practices. The other thing, we've made a heavy investment in terms of staffing, time, resources to our earliest grades, our paraprofessionals working with our teachers, hand in glove. We have Miss Christine Garza, who is working in that learning support specialist role, and she is a great complement and support to those teachers. So every single week, there is a weekly meeting of our elementary teachers to talk about their planning, to talk about students, to talk about the progress of learning, to talk about the data that's accumulated and adjustments that are being made, all with an eye toward maximizing our time and maximizing our effort. And Ms. Kuklinski, Ms. Garza, others come into those meetings to hear, to support, to extend, and that also includes our counselors. Our counselors and school psychologists also find their way into those meetings because we want to deal with all of a student, including their well-being. So we continue to make that a priority. And on that note, just the programming, as you heard me mention before, staffing up our after-school program sports specialist. Ms. Hokamp is a credential teacher, and she has brought a lot of continuity over the last couple of years to that role. What we want to do is maximize what happens in the after-school program, so that it really does operate as more of an enrichment rather than only remediation or homework support. There's a blend of both, but we're really trying to blend where the learning continues into the evenings and into the after-school program. So that all of that work will continue into the coming year. In terms of instructional materials, next year we'll actually be expanding. There will be a 3rd cohort in 7th grade, a little different than the last few years. So our curriculum will increase. Mrs. Ford actually will be teaching 7th grade next year. Very enthusiastic about that. And she will join the middle school group. And I mention that because our science curriculum is really exceptional. And just today, as a matter of fact, the kids were dissecting frogs, just as an example of the kind of hands-on learning that we do here throughout the year, not only as we conclude. We're also getting closer to having an NGSS science curriculum for grades K-5. The last 2 years, some of our staff members have been working with the field test. So that's something that's still in development. And then we're looking to continue with our math program into year 2. A lot of important learning this year. We're going to continue to make adjustments and really deepen our implementation this coming year, continue to focus on professional learning as well. So you see here, I delineated by year where we've been with our ongoing support of AVID. AVID is becoming a foundation for us to improve and increase our ability to reach all students. We are really focusing on rigor. We want students to have complex learning tasks and complex learning opportunities. We don't want to water down the curriculum. That's not what's intended. And we're very mindful of how content is presented to students so that they can continue to be challenged and continue to be extended in terms of their learning. AVID provides us a great common set of strategies and a common language across grade levels. And the idea, actually starting next week, our lower grades, TK1, will go to an institute where they will be oriented over the course of 3 days with a foundational understanding of AVID as it pertains to their grade span. So I think that's just another investment of time and resources toward continuity up and down the grade level, the grade levels, so that there's every year a more and more seamless handoff from one year to the next. Continuing on, in goal 2, we continue to try to push out beyond Mesa. And here I cited co-curricular as being field trips and college and career options. But I really want to talk some of the clubs and experiences that have been coming over the last several years. Things like CJSF, where there's a service learning component to that. I think we are very quickly, and I have to credit Mrs. Wagner and Ms. Inda this year, who spearheaded that. We're quickly branching out and expanding to what CJSF really can be, which is, yes, the scholarly and the academic component, but also the service learning, which oftentimes is the most neglected in other schools that I've seen. But here, there's a real genuine interest in creating inroads into the community that I particularly am very proud of, and I think exposes our young kids, our young people to their community. But there are numerous opportunities for that. Mrs. Spillane, I'll point out Mrs. Spillane, because we had an opportunity through a partnership, the Morito Foundation, thank you. And Mrs. Spillane, they got rained out before, and I made a commitment that we would make it up. And so these is an opportunity for us for our students to be active researchers out in the community dealing with phenomena that occur in just this rich part of the country, this rich part of the community. So, I mean, I can go on and on about the opportunities that have been extended through our staff and through partnerships that have allowed learning to go outside of Mesa's walls. On that note, we a year ago, or now 2 years ago, we staffed a counseling position. At the time, there wasn't necessarily a full understanding of what a counselor could bring to Mesa. And I think we're very quickly seeing that there are many opportunities, not only on the social emotional well-being side of things, but as importantly on the college and career component. She has been at the forefront of organizing events, partnering with community colleges. This year, we really ventured out into exposing our families to dual enrollment, something that we want to continue. And next year, we're going to establish more firm partnerships with Moorpark, with Ventura, and with Oxnard. We have at least, to my knowledge, at least 3 students who are currently dually enrolled, taking college classes actively. And I think that can be a very good option for some of our students to extend their learning and give them a head start in terms of college and career options down the road. So, but for that, we need to bring families along as well. And in certain instances, I've even heard of families exploring options around that they may not have known existed in terms of programming at the community college level. So that's just one example. Again, implementation of Avid, very much on that purpose of partnerships beyond Mesa. Into goal 3, or sorry, well, I'll move forward into goal 3 that we've talked about some of these. I just want to highlight the college and career. CSUCI, UCSB, and the community colleges continue to be really good partners for us, both in terms of events, exposure to colleges, and a growing awareness of what it takes to get there for all of our students, not just some. In terms of creating a safe learning environment responsive to social emotional, I just want to highlight a change here. This year, we continued partnering to 24-25 school year. We continued partnering with VCOE. Moving forward, we're going to form a partnership with MUPO for a counseling role. We found it to be not just financially a better decision, but also in terms of managing the continuity that happens with the staff. So in addition to our counselor, we've had over the last several years an additional support person for 16 to 20 hours. We're going to settle on 16 hours for this coming year, and we'll split that position with MUPO. Mrs. Peterson has been really instrumental in helping us make that decision and for it to land in a financially sustainable place. We also continue to move, and I can go on and on any one of these topics, but our school counseling program, we're hoping to bring that person on. She's already been hired, and we're looking to bring her on so that she understands how we work with our students individually, in small group, and with lessons being taught in the classroom. So all of the above, with very, very small percentage of staffing, have been made possible so that we can continue to support our students during the school day, but also oftentimes outside of the school day as well. And lastly, in terms of professional growth and needs, we continue to use Avid. We continue to partner with VCOE. VCOE has been very helpful this year, in particular, with some of our efforts to push into a more inclusive program where we are including our students with special needs more fully into our general education classrooms. That work will take a big leap forward next year as we look to reorient some of our existing special ed staffing to work with our students more in the classroom, and well, them and the paraprofessionals that work alongside them, so that they can work with students who are both in special education and those who may just have learning needs that we'd like to address more fully. So VCOE has been very helpful to us through their series of workshops in helping us reach that aim. And then just as we conclude, next steps for us, you'll see a breakdown of the timeline here. And the biggest thing for me, as we move into next year, is just solidifying these goals and actions and really helping our parents understand them better. They are, through the Youth Truth Survey, they are recognizing that services are increasing. They are recognizing that supports are increasing. They are recognizing that communication is increasing. We want to be even more intentional in telling them how and what ways we can form better partnerships. So more to come on that front. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and pause there and seek any feedback or input.
Any questions or comments?
I think Avid has been working. I've noticed that it's a good way to be more organized, which I think is important for kids to be able to be organized, or for students to be able to do better academically. They have to be organized. And so I think the structure is good. Yeah.
Well, and I would like to give recognition too, because a part of this is, partnerships, learning supports, this meaningful, learning experiences. And I think those partnerships with Merito, having CJSF where Ms. Wagner intentionally make sure everybody can participate in community service activities regardless of if they academically reach the club thresholds for enrollment, but everybody is welcome to partner with community activities, whether or not they are in the club. So they can even still get together with their friends over the weekend and help with food share and these other great projects in the community. And I think that's amazing. It's building community, it's building our future, adults, right? Like giving them all this perspective about life and other ways that you can contribute and seeing how that is a part of society. So I think the added piece and the curriculum that we're changing and working through new learning materials is wonderful, but also those other soft skills that we're really working on, I think will show such improvement over time.
Anything else?
Shout out to Pokemon Club too.
Two?
Pokemon, like all the clubs.
Yes.
So there are so many new clubs as a part of that community space as well. I know the ones that my child tells me about, so I know those ones, but there are so many more that are also just so wonderful because there's a large variety. It's not just one type. There's
Dungeons
a
and
large.
Dragons, we have a crochet club, we have Pokemon club. I really have to credit our staff
Staff.
for coming up with things that speak to them. But even more importantly, things that kids ask for that they're willing to fulfill. I think that's what has emerged very quickly as a game changer, is that they're willing to meet the kids where they're at and then take them in a totally different direction. As adults and good mentors will do. So I really, all the credit goes to the staff for being open and for being willing to give of their time and then extend that into learning that spills over into the community in a good way and in a way that kids can recognize. You mentioned food share, parents joining in those activities, families. And anyway, I can go on and on, but I think that these are really great points. I'm glad that you're highlighting them because I think they build community in a totally different way and knowledge and awareness in a way that's very different than learning from a textbook.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Going back to what you initially talked about, the CASP results, I know a lot of them are already in, and it was quite quickly. I mean, I would say within, just a few weeks that the results were in for some students. Do you know how they were graded, if it's AI based, or is it actually humans who are looking at these written essays to generate or to give a score?
Yeah, so let me just make mention of that because yes, they've started to come in. Not all of them have, and they're not official, right? They're not official yet. But I know that, anyway, I'll just pause there. To answer your question, they are, I know that they're AI generated and AI supported. They have to be, and that's a way to leverage the technology. Years ago, and I do mean only a few years ago, there was more human involvement, particularly in the hand scoring of essays. I have to believe that too has found its way into being AI, just to be able to turn around. The value that I think we draw from that is getting the results sooner and not the way it was many, many years ago when it was a 4 or 5 month delay, right? I think that helps us in more real time make decisions and find out where we are. So right now, we don't have all the results. We have many, particularly on the ELA side or English language arts side. Math, we're still trickling in, but I don't have an aggregate yet. I'll be getting those in the next coming weeks and at least have a preliminary look at where we are.
I also appreciated seeing that menu of supports from the COE. I wasn't sure if that's something that we had reviewed before or not, but it's, it went along with the TAMPS program and the decision tree of kind of how to deal with certain situations. And I just found that to be really helpful because it builds such consistency across all grades and teachers and staff on all these different levels. So I don't know if I just didn't pay enough attention to that before, but I did think that was a really helpful table.
The eye on you, Mrs. Dryden, the eye on you. I'll keep it brief on the menu of supports. All of you have your own professional endeavors. With us as schools, the one thing that I'd like to leave you with is this: we have to coordinate our services so that we have common expectations and so that our roles are clear. Everybody has good intentions around helping students or helping community. But if the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, or there isn't thought put into where one thing ends and the other one begins, all those good intentions start to become less and less effective. And I think where we have spent a lot of time is in coordinating the things we do. So that's why you may see that we have a counseling program. Well, a lot of schools have counseling programs. What separates ours is that we are very diligent. Every Thursday morning, we meet with our team. We talk about specific kids, specific grade levels, what groups we're running, what their focus is, what goals we have. So it's that level of precision. And I'll just point to the medical field because they do it best in my eyes. Because you have specialists and a number of people coming together to help a patient. But if they don't carefully orchestrate their efforts, no matter how skilled they ever are, you won't see a result in that patient, I believe. So with us, if we're talking about an individual student, the only way that we can help a student grow wherever they are is by coming to them with coordinated efforts so that we see where they are and what we're doing to get them to the next level. And so the menu of supports is a good example of that, so that we're trying to establish clarity, whether it's on discipline, counseling, support, where are they? So that we know what steps we've taken and which ones we can take further.
I want to say something about this that's kind of, I'm going to chase a shiny object on this topic. And that is the fact that years ago, prior to your coming here, there was a desire by the county and the I remember the entity that put it together. They're trying to push all the smalls to join together to make a larger school district and to join larger school districts to get economies of scale. And that comes at a very significant price. And one of the things I'd like to pass on is the fact that because we were small, it has its pluses and it has its minuses. The pluses is we can do, as Dr. Ramirez just stated, is that we can focus on the individual students and their growth and their development and their education. And we can teach that. The larger that we get, the more they become numbers and the more we become a machine that just processes. And that's where people fall through the cracks. We were able to go through multiple economic downturns without eliminating programs and staff. And we are dedicated to our staff because of that, where larger school districts were unable to do that. They were unable to cope. They just did the standard thing. Okay, we're economic downturn. We're going to shut down all these programs, reduce this staff until we get funds back. And so when we receive pressure to go larger and are being sold, the economies of being in a larger group, that it comes at a significant price. And I think it's the students that pay that price the most. And so it kind of goes with what we've just been talking about, but it's a different perspective. I hope that we're not persuaded to follow the crowd, as it were, because I think that there's great strength in the community that we have, that we can call upon, that will support the school even through hard times. And we can stay focused on the education of students rather than numbers. That's a very important piece.
I love the fact that we are such a small school district and we can get a lot done a lot quicker than others because we are small. So, I'm in support of staying that way.
That's what makes us that best kept hidden secret of the county. And there's other ones like Tammy's probably far more familiar with these other smalls. And because it was all the smalls, and it wasn't just Mesa, it was all the smalls that were able to weather storms. It wasn't painless, but they did, I think, a far better job because they have to, even in the good times, they have to manage budgets better and a little more tightly and scrutinize that a little bit better so that we're on an even keel in both good times and hard times. Okay.
Other, items under the LCAP.
So I didn't know if we were gonna discuss those in whole, or just kind of high level, like the draft plan. Are we just discussing?
If
Are we
you
gonna
have
review?
any questions, the draft plan exists. So if you have any questions pertaining to it.
I was just gonna ask, who, do you prepare it? Does the principal prepare it? Like, who prepares the actual write-up of the LCAP?
I do.
Okay, so I guess I think it's really positive, or I mean, I've just been skimming it right now. But it looks really positive in the sense that it's like a report card, the indicator report card, where it asks us to assess, is this something we're working on? Is this something we've initiated? Or is this something that we've fully implemented? Is this something that we're at the sustainable status for? Have we really reached a good point? And I was looking through all those indicators right now, and it really seems we are middle to sustainability. So we have at least initiated a lot of these projects and goals, and because some of them are brand new, and then some of them we've really worked through to get to that fully implemented and sustainable status. So that's why I was just curious, like, how did we arrive at that? Because definitely going through all the different goals and targets, I see that being true and reflective. So I was just curious how that process went to drafting that.
Yeah, there's a lot of carryover, obviously, from year to year, because not everything changes in a dramatic form from one year to the next. But where you're indicating is the indicator report, which is a relatively new function. Before, I needed to just submit it to the state dashboard directly. Now it's a request or it's an expectation that it will come in front of the board and receive, or the public and the board to receive, that attention. But it gives you two options. One is a narrative. The other one is a rating scale plus narratives. And I'd like to think that I'm pretty hard on this when it comes to the rating scales. You will probably not see any fives. It's all threes and fours. In large part because there's a criteria chart separate from this that you have to work through. But the point is, it's about, not to me, about misrepresenting where you are in a process, but rather to be very honest. And so, as I'm telling you that we're doing a number of good things, which we are, it's my responsibility to also say there's a lot of things that we still have to improve upon. The performance of our students. I mean, I can say it until we don't reach 100% on everything, we're not where we need to be. And even then, there will be other frontiers to examine. But to come back to your indicator, your question on the indicator, all of those are different criteria. Each one of them is implementation of materials, implementation of standards. The list goes on and on. And for me, it's just a matter of being balanced. And I feel like I can do both. Acknowledge that there's tremendous work being given, and yet a lot of work yet to be done to get us the results that we all want. And by the way, I do the drafting, but the work is, it's a collective work. I just happen to write it. Yes, it's collaboration. I just happen to be the one writing it, but yes, ultimately it's everybody's work.
Are there anything in either the annual update or the goals and actions, that you think need to bring to our attention? that we haven't already discussed?
No, look, here's the biggest point, and you're not going to see it reflected there, but it's my statement. I think we are going to have to acknowledge that schools can't hold all of the work of the community. And I say that to you because our resources are starting to get tighter. Our need is not getting less, right? Our expectations are not getting less, but the resources with which to do it are becoming tighter and tighter. And so my goal for this coming year is to be far more deliberate and prescriptive with our community about where we need to invoke their support and how even the smallest of contributions can go a long way. Case in point, attendance. I would like, or part of my championing for next year is that all of our students are out of school no more than 7 days. Why 7? Because that's on average about 1 a month. We know that the overwhelming number of our students are absent less than that. But what I see, and I've seen it in my entire career, where there are gaps in attendance, there are gaps in learning. Those two go hand in hand. And while one doesn't necessarily cure the other, it is a significant factor. So attendance will be at the forefront because I'd like to see our percentage increase to 97%. When I was a principal last, not at Mesa, but in the Rio School District, I was doubted, but we got to 97 in an elementary setting, and I don't see a reason why we can't here. That 1% from now on is going to be harder and harder and harder to get, but I think it's a noble effort. Similarly, I think we need more work on independent reading. I think we need more diligence on independent reading throughout our grade levels. So I'm just sunshining for the board, ways in which I know that we can rethink how we see our challenges, because the dollars, unfortunately, the resources are finite. And we're getting to a point where we're exhausting the ability to add services. And that's something that we just need to be honest about. So embedded throughout this plan is that our resources are getting much tighter. And I think that might be a good segue to Mrs. Peterson's report.
Okay. So do we bring this hearing to a close and we'll transition Ms. Peterson. So this hearing will close at 7:14. And we'll open up the public hearing for the financial budget and turn the time, we'll open that hearing at 7:14 as well and turn the time over to Tammy.
Or you do have the presentation in front of me, but I did find a typo, and so that has been corrected. Data with that. So as we close out the fiscal year 24-25 and look forward to 2026. In the current year, we had a statutory COLA of 1.07%, and we're projecting that, or actually, the governor has proposed a 2.3% COLA. And as it stands currently, we have been notified that both the Assembly and the Senate have come to a meeting of the minds, and so now they will begin negotiating with the governor. One of the things that is most likely going to be challenged legally is the governor's proposed to withhold 1.3 billion of Prop 98 until at such time the state can do its calculations and reconcile Prop 98 because they don't want to overfund schools. The Assembly and the Senate have agreed with this proposal, and already CSBA is signaling that they will challenge it in the courts. It's something quite similar to what happened last year, and it was challenged, and the governor ended up taking as well as the legislature. So it's the next month is probably going to be very interesting as we see them work through all of the different aspects of the budget, because what the governor proposed and what the legislature is proposing, there are some differences, especially surrounding discretionary funding. I've not included any discretionary funding within this budget, because until we really know what's available, we don't know that because that's the only way. But as we look at our enrollment, this year we hit a high of 593 students, which is great for Mesa. We haven't been that high since the pandemic, so that was good news. And as we look into 25-26, we're still projecting 591 students. We have several interdistrict transfers coming into the district. Our TKK numbers seem to be stabilizing, although as we look to the out years, there are some downturns as we look to that enrollment. When we look at P2 ADA versus projected ADA, we're projecting 560, or P2 was 565.38, and that's just the district's ADA. It does not include any ADA that we receive for those students that are served by the county. And in 25-26, we're projecting that ADA amount to be 561.54. However, you'll note that our funded ADA is the same in 24-25 as it is in 25-26, and that's because we are funded at the higher of the current year, prior year, or the 3-year average. And so because this current year is our highest in the 3-year period, that's what we will be funded at in 25-26, unless of course we supersede that, and then it would be that number as well. Our uneducated pupil percentage has gradually been climbing. We're at 42.24% in 24-25, and we're projecting it to be 25-26 to be 43.34%. As I mentioned, as far as discretionary funds that have been included in this budget, I've not included those just because of the uncertainty that surrounds them and whether or not they'll come through. Some of you may remember when Governor Brown, it just became unrestricted funds and they came directly to the district. We have a legislature and the governor who really likes categorical programs and accountability. And so most likely they will come in some form of a restricted maneuver, some type of a categorical program, and then we'll have to comply with statutorily with all of the requirements that they place upon that. CalPERS rates in the current year were 27.05%. And because of the actuarial studies that have been done, that's been brought to 26.81% in 25-26. And I was thinking back to my earlier days. At one point in time, 13.2 was the high that we paid in PERS. Normally it was a combination of PERS and PERS reduction. And on the reduction side, you didn't have to pay PERS for the federal funds. And so there were these very complicated formulas. But even when you compare to the 13.2% to the 26%, we're paying twice statutorily in PERS amounts than we did prior to LCFF. It was actually 2013 was when we really began to see the shifts and the significant climb in PERS contributions. And then CalSTRS also, it was 8.2%. We're now at 19.1%. So it's something that, as Dr. Ramirez mentioned in his presentation with LCAP, these are all things that we're grappling with as school districts. Even though we see increases in funding, we see increases that impact how those funds are being spent. And one of those is with our PERS and STRS rates. When we look at our multi-year budget assumptions, as I mentioned, in 25-26, we have a total of 2.3%. In 26-27, it's projected to be 3.02% and 3.42% in 27-28. There is no gap funding. We're fully funded LCFF. I just like to keep that in as a slide because for those of you who remember, as we implemented LCFF, there was gap funding. And periodically we'll hear from the legislature that they'd really like to increase the benchmarks for LCFF. And so potentially at some point that gap funding will come back. And then again, one-time discretionary funds, they're uncertain at this point. When we look at our targeted base rate for TK grade 3, it's $10,256. In grades 4 through 6, it's $10,411. And in grades 7 and 8, it's $10,719. We do have an augmentation for TK through grade 3. And that's a 10.4% of the base rate. So that is an additional $1,067 that gets added to that calculation. And then supplemental funding is 20% of the adjusted base rate. And then we don't qualify for concentration funding because we don't have more than 55% in unduplicated pupil count students. So we have, as we look at 25-26, we're projecting $12,073 to be what we receive per ADA. And then in 24-25, just as a note of comparison, it was $11,800. So we're seeing just over about $273 more per ADA in this budget. As we look again at supplemental concentration grant funding, you can see how it does impact the budget. We are receiving currently projecting in 25-26 to receive about almost $534,000 in supplemental funding. Because of this increase in 26-27, we're anticipating that to grow to $554,000. And again, in 27-28, continues to grow as lower years drop off because it is a 3-year rolling average. We're anticipating $586,000 in supplemental funding. So when we look at projected amounts per ADA, it would be $12,455 in 26-27 and $12,926 in 27-28. As we compare our estimated actuals to our budget, we do see a slight decrease in overall funding, and that's because we had some carryover funding on the federal side, and so we've seen a slight drop in that. State revenue is fairly static, but then our local revenue is down slightly, and that's because in 24-25 we did receive a dividend because of how well our workers' comp program performs. And currently, we're projecting that we will probably receive another dividend in 25-26, but the board for the self-funding authority has not determined that, so I've not included that in the 25-26 budget. So revenues are down slightly as compared to 24-25, and then we recognize about a 2% increase for certificated salaries, and then in classified salaries about it's a little bit flatter, and that's normally because throughout the year we potentially increase budgets as far as extra duty and substitute costs on the classified side, and then employee benefits are up slightly. Books and supplies are down. That's because in the current year we have been spending down some of those one-time art music discretionary funds in the purchase of furniture. We still have a small amount of almost $200,000 that will carry over into 25-26, but I have not budgeted those at this point in time. So that's why we see the decrease for books and supplies. And then services are down slightly. And that's because, as Dr. Ramirez mentioned, Mesa has opted to hire its own psychologists. So we're no longer paying those for services. That will has moved up to be salaries and benefits. And then the contracted amount for counseling services that we pay to VCOE will be decreased significantly as compared to what we will be paying because MOOC was hiring its own employee. Any charges that we receive from the county normally have at least about a 10% increase tacked on, and that's to cover their indirect wages. So it allows by sharing employees among the smalls, it really helps us save a significant amount. When we look at capital outlay, that's normally budgeted as we move through the year, so I've not included that. Although we have several projects that are currently about to begin, those have been budgeted in other funds, and depending on how much of the project is completed prior to June 30th, any of those requisitions will be rolled over into 25-26. So we actually are seeing a decrease overall in the general fund in 24-25 of $907,000. Much of that is on the restricted side, and then $348,000 deficit in 25-26. So our ending fund balance is projected to be $1,125,000. Of that, $473,000 is the required reserve. We have $384,000 in restricted funds. And so we'll have an unassigned unappropriated amount of about $267,000 in 25-26. As we look to our multi-year projections, we're actually seeing the deficit spending stabilize, which is great news for the budget. As you can see in 25-26, we have our projected deficit spending of $261,000. But in 26-27, we anticipate that to decrease down to just $53,000. And then in 27-28, it decreases down to $18,000. I have captured some savings in 26-27 with a decrease of 1 FTE, and that's just because of the anticipation of declining enrollment. But as we get closer, and as we see what type of enrollment really comes in, then in 26-27, we will address that. When we look at our restricted funds, deficit spending, and it's really truly not deficit spending because we've already received the money. But in 25-26, we'll see a decrease in restricted funds to about 86,000, 74,000 in 26-27, and then 18,000 in 27-28. So as you look down to our reserve levels, we're going to have a right around between that 7 and 8% reserve level. And then the district, as we see how things materialize, those reserves might grow, or we might opt to move some of those funds into other funds like we have historically. So when you look to our other funds, this bigger so I can see it. We have $754,000 at the conclusion of 24-25 in the cafeteria fund. We anticipate that to grow in 25-26, but we are attempting to spend some of that down with some of the projects that we're currently doing to improve the cafeteria and its functionality. Deferred maintenance is down from what it was in the current year, just because we have used some of those funds to help offset some of the costs that we're improving here on the campus, rather than using Fund 21, which is the bond fund. In the pupil transportation fund, we still anticipate to have $92,000, and that's after the payment of for the electric buses, because much of that was covered by grants. And then in the two special reserve funds in Fund 17, we have about $75,000. And then in the building, we're projecting to have about $2.3 million in the bond building fund. And then our capital facilities development fund, we have about $124,000. And then Fund 35, we have about $65,000. And then in the bond interest and redemption funds, we have another about $1.2 million, but those are funds that we can't taxpayer use to cover any of the debt service on the bonds. So this budget is really a matter of just really being cognizant of what revenues are coming in, balancing those with the expenditures that are in the LCAP, and then really monitoring cash flow. As we do spend down one-time monies, that does impact our cash flow. And also there are some deferrals that are proposed in this budget, just because what the state likes to do is we recognize them in the current year, but they defer to the next year. So whether we receive those the first part of July or other months, that's still yet to be determined. So it's just really being mindful of what our cash reserves are. And fortunately for Mesa, we do have monies in other funds, and so we're able to borrow those. So we don't have to go out for any type of revenue anticipation notes, which helps save the district significantly on interest. Are there any questions about the budget?
I'll start. When I saw the numbers and the figures for books and supplies, and that we were decreasing, 150,000-ish from this year to next year. I'm also knowing on the budget, we are approving purchasing more math curriculum textbooks. And so I wanted to make sure, did that get kind of incorporated into our books and supplies? Because we also just got new science curriculum within the last couple of years, which not only was initial investment, but also has recurring because of like the science supplies. So all of that, I'm assuming, goes into it. So that's why we feel comfortable with the big decrease, because we will have just purchased, right? new books?
Because the other difference is we made major purchases and furniture. And so in 24-25, you're seeing that purchase, but those have not been budgeted in 25-26. These have just, those monies have dropped down to the restricted reserves, and we'll utilize those as those expenditures are made, and then that way we'll budget those expenditures.
And then another one I had was there's a line item for pupil transportation equipment. Can we also use that for transportation services, or it only can be used on the equipment? So it can't be used for the other funds okay.
And the board can take action and move those dollars. They're technically unrestricted. Historically, that fund, we would receive monies from the state, and they've mandatorily had to go there and be utilized in that manner. But with the implementation of LCFF, funds 14 and funds 15, the board has a much more discretionary abilities. And so if for whatever reason, if we found we need those, we could move those to Fund 1 if we needed to.
I only ask because I know our pupil transportation services costs have been increasing greatly and still are anticipated to increase more. So I just wanted to try to close that with my mind.
Yeah, I'll speak more to that. I think you're also looking ahead to the contract that's on the board agenda, which I'll speak more about when we get there.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll bring this hearing to a close at 7:33. And we'll move on to item C. Receive the initial proposal from the Mesa Union Support Team to the Mesa Union School District regarding the negotiation of the 2025-2026 school year. Can I get a motion
I'll make a motion.
and a second? Any comments or questions? This is just a receipt of the proposal. Okay. Hearing none, let's go ahead and all those in favor of receiving the initial proposal from MUS to MUSD, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. 9C in the packet. Okay, 10. Item A, consideration of approval of the certification of signatures for the board period July 1, 2025 through December 31, 2025. Can I get a motion?
Lisa, move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? We'll just take care of this at the end of the meeting, so don't run off very fast. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the certification of signatures for the period of July 1, 2025 through December 31, 2025, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Consideration of the adoption of the following end-of-year resolutions. Resolution 24-25-08, the temporary loans between district funds fiscal year 2025 to 2026. Resolution number 24-25-09, appropriation transfer fiscal year 2025-2026, and resolution 24-25-10, the authority of the Mesa Union School District to improve the compensation benefits for certain categories for employees after July 1, 2025. Can I get a motion?
I'll second the motion.
Any comments or questions?
I just had a question on resolution 24-25-10, the third one. Is this that we have the ability to improve compensation, or are we acting to improve compensation?
Any other comments or questions? This is just pretty much a housekeeping thing that we do at the end of every year. So that we're, just in case, so that we're solvent going into the new year, right?
That, and if
Yeah.
you were to take action for certain types of compensation, say going back into a private year, that particular resolution allowed you to do that.
Okay. All those in favor of approving and adopting these three resolutions, 24-25-08, 24-25-09, and 24-25-10. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item C, consideration of the approval of the agreement from Hatch and Cesarium. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Any comments or questions?
Only comment, heck, go ahead. My only comment was that this is an annual renewal for services. This past year, we did not employ their service. They typically work with us on matters pertaining to special education, litigation or counsel.
So there's not an annual fee, so it's a consumption-based.
Correct. It's
contract.
It's based on the hours billed.
And the bulk of this is covered by Shelf Funding Authority, so it's rare that Mesa does actually receive a bill from Hatch Cesario. We just have a legal services agreement, which allows us to
hire,
to utilize.
to utilize their services. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agreement from Hatch and Cesario, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item D, consideration of the approval of the MOU between Spirinet Local Educational Agency and the Ventura County Office of Education, SELFA. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
In a second?
I'll second.
Comments, questions, or discussion?
This is
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. This has become an annual MOU as well, renewal. And in effect, what it does is it coordinates between three agencies: Mesa Union School District, SpiritNet, and the Ventura County Office of Education, Special Education Agency, to work with each other to deliver services, typically for those most acute services on the mental health side, counseling through different media, and in different levels of intensity. So it allows us to employ those services. This year, for example, we did not employ those services. Next year, too soon to tell, but that would authorize us to be able to use those services on an as-needed basis.
Any other questions or comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the MOU between SpiritNet and Ventura County Office of Education, SELFA, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Consideration of approval of the proposal from Venco Western Inc. for the lawn landscaping. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Did I miss it?
Who moved?
Yeah, Miss Up, and who seconded?
Sure.
Okay, 1, 2, down there. You got that? All right. Any comments?
Yes, this is work that we've been trying to orchestrate now for a couple of years. And it's just, again, upkeeping our turf. The idea would be to reseed this summer with the idea of having better fields of play, athletic and otherwise, for the campus.
Great.
Question, it looked like the bulk was actually, I mean, a bulk was the actual reseeding. Are we doing anything for gopher control?
I look over at Mrs. Peterson because we are actively treating through an outside service, and we've seen many, many benefits. The service that you're describing, which would be laying down a wire mesh, would be cost prohibitive, I believe.
Yes, it would. But let me speak to that just a little bit, and this may be something that we want to discuss with Benco, because it's something that we're going to be experimenting with at Lupu. All of the smalls suffer from gopher infestation just because of our proximity to lands. We are installing a mechanism. It's basically a pump, and so rather than using it for fertilization, you use some type of a castor oil. So there's no harm to students, but for whatever reason, we don't like the smell. And so we're going to be utilizing that at Muku and seeing how that works, because they have a severe problem. They just put in a new field last year. And so we're hoping to get ahead of it. They're using it at Ventura Unified. I think Rio is using it as well. And so it's something that we're hopeful will be effective and maybe some of the prevention for gopher treatment. But to put in any type of a stainless steel mesh would be $1 million, $1.5 million. And that's really the only surefire way to prevent gopher. At this point in time, that doesn't seem prudent, a prudent investment, just because Mesa has so many other needs and wants that would supersede putting that type of barrier down.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the Venco Western Lawn Landscaping Agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Consideration of approval of the proposal from Valor Construction. Can I get a proposal? And then
I'll make a motion.
yes.
I'll second.
Comments?
Yes, just one important clarification. The total cost, 47,113.63 cents, 33,613.73 plus 13,500. My original message to the board may have only included one of the line items, but it is both of them in combination. So one clarifying point. The other one is this is the last piece, or the last contractor to be a part of the kitchen remodeling project. And they're going to be working on reorienting some walls and just basically how the flow of foot traffic happens in that very confined space. So they'll be in some ways helping orchestrate some of the work that needs to be done, including removal of appliances, reinstallation of appliances, like the physical moves and such. They'll be taking care of that for us as well.
I see items, $10,000 for unforeseen conditions. That seems a little generous.
So, yeah, let me clarify. That's something that we've typically done in contracts, to include a contingency that will only be drawn in the event that we agree that those contingencies are, that we're in agreement about those unforeseen circumstances.
And will they talk to you and approve those before they just say, okay, we got an extra?
Yes,
Okay, great.
yes. And you'll see those in some of our construction projects, because we don't always, we build them in because we know they can happen. We try to be very mindful of the work, scope of work being the scope of work, but we also don't want to keep coming back to the board for those small increments of change. Rather approve it on the back end. But yes, all of those are approved by me ultimately, but in conjunction with Mr. De Leon, who is going to run point with us on this project.
A great question. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the proposal from Valor Construction, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item G, consideration of the approval of the proposal from BC Rincon Construction. Can I get a motion?
I so move.
Second. Any comments and questions here? Go, Dr.
Yes, I mean, this is just another routine maintenance project. The front parking lot just needs some updating and some maintenance, which you see here in the scope of work. Also wanted to highlight that the cost it should be covered or will be covered in large part through a facilities use agreement that we have. Some of you have seen our motorcycle school that has been here for a number of years. Well, that balance is such that it allows us to take care of this project. So just wanted to add that as a side note. Then also last year, we received some monies from Southern California Edison, which just for a small piece of land use for about a 2-month period, 3-month period, and coupled together, that should be enough to be able to cover the cost of this particular project.
That's great.
When was the last time the parking lot was, the asphalt was repaired?
That's a great question. I can't answer that for you. It has not been during the 5 years that I've been here. So it's
I don't think it ever has.
it's been quite some time. It may have been done. It's been restriped. It's been restriped. If not every year, every other year since I've been here and even years prior. But as far as the asphalt work that will be undertaken this time around, I can't quote you a time period. We are also going to take the opportunity to redo or restripe the playground, just so that it ties in with the new playground and with the field. I give it all.
Last time the playground was redone, looked great.
Yes.
Was that like 2 years ago or was that last year?
That was 2 years. That's 2 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was actually done by BC Rincon where they resealed the asphalt here as well. So we're looking to just stagger that work. This should be done about every 3 to 5 years. So in this instance, the work will be a little more extensive, but it's much needed and intended to avoid bigger costs down the line.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of approving the proposal from BC Rincon Construction, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item H, consideration of the approval of the quote from STS Education for the purchase of Chromebooks. Can I get a motion?
I so move.
In a second,
Second.
comments?
Just that this is part of our refresh cycle. So we've established that students will get devices 2nd grade and then once again in 6th, just so that we give that a few years cycle where the devices will basically travel with the student over the course of those years. And so this is for next year's 2nd and 6th grade enrollment.
Okay, I should have been asking this question to follow the ones. How's this being funded? LCFF. And what are we doing with the old ones? How are we
So,
disposing of
yeah,
the old
a couple of things. So, the old devices, we always are in need of temporarily loaning, either because of a repair or whatever it may be. So we do keep those around. This year we sold some old inventory that we had, and we're finalizing the figures, but we might be getting about $1,000 back.
Right.
So we always have the opportunity to go the e-waste route, depending on the condition of the machine, or in this instance, STS actually took some of our. These are devices that are 8 anywhere between 7 and 8 years old, and took them and gave us a credit is how it'll turn out, about $1,000.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the quote from STS Education for the purchase of Chromebooks, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item I, consideration of approval of the transportation service agreement with Ventura County Office of Education. Can I get a motion? A second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion, comments.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sullivan. This is a service agreement which I will ask the board to support, but I think there's still a lot of work that I need to undertake with Mrs. Peterson, see what alternatives exist for us, because as I shared with the board, this is a cost of approximately $126,000 for 4 students, which is a significant cost. I'm not promising that that cost will diminish greatly, but my goal would be to lower it substantially. There's a couple of options that come to mind. One is an alternative service, one that we actually employ for another student, which appears to be about 20% or so lower than the per student cost of the county. That would be continuing to outsource. It's a service that is very similar to a rideshare program. Okay.
Right.
Just to give you a comparison. The other is to bring this in-house, and that's the other option that I'm very much weighing. That, however, would involve one, the purchase of a vehicle, right? Somebody without a commercial license could drive, an employee could drive, and then it would be the cost of fuel, insurance, the vehicle, and an employee. Sum total, we predict, would be less than 126. And then you would effectively cover your cost at least for 1 year, but possibly for more with the purchase of a vehicle outright. So we, SOMIS has moved in this direction. We are certainly entertaining it, but I wanted to bring this forward just to be able to hedge our bets because students will need transportation.
Is this something we can partner with SOMAS on?
Perhaps the challenge is conflicting schedules and conflicting routes. You want to make sure that the routes, because remember, each one of these 4 students may have similar arrival times at different schools. So that's where this conversation gets a little more nuanced because of the destinations. We have 2 students who are slated to continue in Pleasant Valley in their middle school program, and another 2 that are in a county program. So it's possible, just at a glance, those 2 schedules will be complementary and maybe could be grouped together, even if all 4 can't be. So it's just a matter of figuring out logistics. SOMAS, the possibility could exist, but we haven't discussed that.
Because, so you don't know how many students they have and what their ports of destination are. And you've got to pick, I understand the process very, very well. And I know and I understand that, having been through that, I get it. And so, but if we could partner, I think that's worth a discussion as well. Because if they're going to see savings, they're looking into doing this. And if they've already committed to doing that, we would just add to their savings if we were to join with them, if that's possible.
You can't use Uber.
That's basically we have an existing partnership that looks very similar to that. And that's
$8,000 per student, so there's really.
You would, the using rides here is about $350 per trip per individual. So you'd have to do the math out on that one.
And so again,
Yeah, that's.
we're trying to
privileged
find a
cost
way to
school.
lower this cost because it is a substantial cost.
It's $7 a day.
But another potential benefit is if we had a van, because that's the type of car we could drive without a commercial license.
Correct.
With these students, is that we'd also potentially be able to use that van to go to something like Battle of the Books or a sports tournament or another purpose beyond getting a student to and from school.
Correct.
But parents would not be allowed to drive it. You would only, we'd have to have a district employee drive it. Just because of insurance.
Yes, but to your point,
Right.
it does open up other possibilities for, in effect, the cost of 1 year of this particular contract, right? And so again, this contract will fluctuate. It's always fluctuated year to year, but I'm afraid to say it just continued to grow because of just escalating costs of transportation. So, yes, I wanted to wait until the year concluded to kind of turn my attention to this a little more fully. But there are some options. I would like to entertain those and to see if we can lower the cost of that to whatever extent is feasible.
This is, going on what was just talked about. Any specific modifications might have to be done for the ADA. Americans with Disabilities.
At
Wheelchair
present,
lifts or anything like that, or the ambulance, or the students we're talking about. Okay,
Because they do have a student that's going to need wheelchair access. So it just depends. In Mesa's particular case, at this point in time, we don't have a student that would have that requirement. So it's not necessarily something that we would need to invest in at this point in time. But it is a consideration.
so that's a choice that we can make. We're not mandated to purchase it that way.
no, that would be,
We don't have the need to.
yeah,
Okay.
that would be based, I mean, it would be
Unlike
ideal to be.
restrooms, we're mandated,
Yeah, no, it would be ideal to equip a vehicle that way, but it does increase the cost. And then
Right.
it becomes a decision of whether to do that now or do it later, right? So that's where I think this conversation, it will need to be a little bit more fleshed out.
So just a quick question for you, Cameron, and based on life expectancy, I mean, is it better to purchase or to lease something like this? If we were to go that kind of about, is it, what's the life expectancy on something? I mean, I don't know, that's why.
From a lease perspective, it would be difficult to predict just because we don't know, we wouldn't be able to identify the use. Historically, most districts opt to purchase just because you can get 10, 15 years out of a vehicle, sometimes longer. I think.
The truck is one thing, but a vehicle like this, I mean, are we gonna get 10 or 15 years out of it?
Potentially, just because you're not going to be putting on a significant number of miles.
Yeah.
Because it would be used primarily to drive from Mesa perimeter, Mesa to
District.
Pleasant Valley or to the county office. And then in the off chance that you use it for other type of activities, most of which would be local. So you wouldn't be putting that many miles on it. Somas opted to go electric on theirs. There's pros and cons to both. Cost, it's significantly more to go electric. Whereas we could potentially look at a diesel or a gas van. And potentially the life could be much longer.
Grant program or anything out there, especially.
Not necessarily for a van of this
Yeah.
sort. We've tapped into those for the buses, but not of just basic transportation. And more districts, at least in the county, are opting to do this just because of the difficulty to find drivers. And especially just to make trips from district to county or to another special ed program. The cost for the county transportation system have just grown exponentially. And more are leaving it, which means then those that are staying are absorbing even more costs.
Greater amount of cost.
So the discussion we've just had is something that we're looking at. It's not a part of this transportation service agreement, correct?
So yes, I would ask that the board approve it. However, please know that before we fulfill it, we're going to be looking at these other alternatives.
Okay. So we're approving this and then we may not actually utilize it. We may come up with an alternative before it's needed.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the transportation service agreement with the Ventura County Office of Education, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item J, consideration of approval of the multitudes of student reading screener to assess the students for risk of reading difficulties. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
In a second. Comments and discussion.
Yeah, this is in response to legislation that is contained there in the board packet. But in short, new legislation came into effect asking school districts to approve one of 4 identified screeners. And multitudes, after much conversation internally, and we've been with our staff, with our teachers included, we concluded that multitudes for this period of time would be the best option. It is one that is state sponsored, so the use of the platform and the screener would not bring with it a cost to the district. And there are even some training tools that we could employ. So that is the direction in which we'd like to head, with more information on the horizon on its effectiveness and its use. I will also say that many of the screeners, and part of the thinking for us is that many of the screeners that we already use as part of, you heard me mention the early literacy efforts that we've undertaken, they actually appear to be as robust as this and are given in regular intervals of time by classroom teachers. So we didn't want to opt for something that was A, more costly, and B, redundant to something we already had in place. But since this is a mandate, we opted in for multitudes, and that's the recommendation.
Give me some examples of what the plan is to try and encourage students to do more independent reading. I think that's what you talked
Yeah,
about,
so
right?
so that part wouldn't be a part of this initiative. But something as simple as setting a standard for how many books we ought to be reading by grade level and in what genres, in what categories, right? I think that is something that's going to prove to be beneficial. We really did that this year in a few grade levels. And I want to credit Mrs. Fisher for really launching it more concretely. But I think having that be school-wide with consistent expectations across grade levels, with specific quantities in specific categories, I think that's just where we need to go.
And I would like to highlight that I think you guys did a great job doing a general sort of friendly way of, competitive way of
The March Madness.
Right, the March Madness, and like a lot of kids read a lot because of that. And I think, I don't know if this is something that is being also done across some grade levels, but I know that some students are also kind of taking that, carrying that over onto the summer.
Yes.
And kind of partnering up with another student to have like a challenge where they also kind of read books and throughout the entire summer, which I think that's a good idea too.
And ultimately, what we want to do is take these pockets of expectations and clarity and collect them all so that we have a uniform way of approaching things. And it's a little easier said than done, of course, but we want to make that a goal for us to all come under the umbrella of independent reading, a real call to action to parents and families, those that are already undertaking this. And I want to take it out of time. I know that the recommendation is consistently 30 minutes or so. But in my eyes and just my life experience, 30 minutes can very easily be brushed aside because of life, right? Commitments, whatever it may be. But when we are sticking to a numerical target over time with milestones in between, I think that has a greater chance of landing and being really embraced by our kids and our families as well. But ultimately, it's the kids, getting them motivated so that there is some level of competition, but more so a level of enthusiasm for accomplishment. And I'm thinking about where we reward that with some other symbolic things. So anyway, it's just an idea right now that requires more fleshing out. This is, of course, more specific to the mechanics of reading, being able to decode, being able to blend letters and letter sounds. So that has a different purpose, but ultimately what we want to do is foster literacy across the grades.
Anything further? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the multitudes, the student reading screener to assess students for the risk of reading difficulty, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item number K, consideration of the approval of the quote from Kendall Hunt for illustrative mathematics materials, supporting material, and, oh, okay, that's the next part. Anyway, can I get a motion?
I move to approve the quote for the Kendall Hunt illustrative math material.
Second the motion.
Comments?
This is just a renewal of print materials intended to support us for this coming school year.
Okay. Anything else? All those in favor of approving the quote from Kendall Hunt for the math material, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item 11, personnel, A, consideration of approval of hiring the following certificated employees for the 25-26 school year. Stephanie Sandoval, 1 FTE for a second grade teacher effective July 1, 2025. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Ms. Sandoval has been with us this entire year, has filled 2 long-term assignments, one in first grade, one in fifth. Currently, that's her assignment as we wrap up the year. She has proven herself to be a good young professional, and we'd like to have her continue with us this coming school year. This year, we will have 2 first grade. We project to have 2 first grade classrooms, 2 second grade classrooms, and a 1-2 combination classroom. And that is something that we've already discussed with our staff, and she would be fulfilling a second grade assignment.
Any other questions, comments?
Have we had a combo 1-2 before?
Not at the time that I've been here. So this would be a bit of a new venture, but not foreign to us. We've had combination grades in the past. Mrs. Oliveras will be actually teaching that class and or that cohort of kids. And I think her background suits that combination well. She's taught first grade years ago and has been now a second grade teacher for a number of years. And I think that team otherwise is very stable with a lot of continuity. By doing this, also we bring down our class numbers to somewhere in the 20-21 range. And I think that's helpful for this age span. So that's yet another reason to move forward in this direction.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the hiring of Stephanie Sandoval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item B, consideration of the approval of the hiring of the following teachers and classified employees for the summer school enrollment, including Sarah Holcamp, Cynthia Martinez, Steve Hernandez, Jennifer Ortiz, Stephanie Sandoval, Christina Mendoza, Veronica D'Arcos, Jessica Ballesteros, Andrea Hampton, and Debbie Sussex. I get a motion. And a second.
A second.
Any discussion?
How many students participating in summer school.
We're projecting 95 students.
These students that need the extra, overall, the extra help.
Sure. These are kids that have been recommended largely by teachers and over the course of a month almost. The recommendations forward, communication with families, and we do our best to secure commitment.
Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor of hiring the following teachers and classified employees for some schools, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Let's see, with that, I think that brings us to a close with our public section. So we'll go into are there any public comments for the closed session? Seeing none, we will end our closed session, our open session. We'll now adjourn to the closed session to discuss public employee superintendent evaluation, conference with labor negotiation as authorized by government code 35490.1, and personnel authorized in government code and potential litigation. With that, we'll go into closed session and come back and report out.